What's up, running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans? Welcome to another fun episode of Talking in Ovals. I'm Alex Cuesta. Dave Hyatt's my partner with me over there. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. I just want to say, yesterday I was watching the New Jersey Meet of Champs. If they ever think about bringing that meet back to the bubble, they are out of their minds. What an amazing place, an amazing time. It was so much fun to see everyone just run fast in the track-only facility. It was just absolutely beautiful to watch.
Just to piss off a few people, the New York, New Jersey Meet of Champs, it's officially going to be called now, since it's ran in New York now. Anyway, but before we get going on the fun stuff, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go look up Talking in Ovals on any of the social media. You'll find us there. And I don't know if I mentioned today, it's Monday, March 6, 2023 that we're recording. I do that. But before we go, have our guest talk about our guest that we had on our PRs. Last week's show, we had our first ever active pro runner. We've had on, past greats with Johnny Gray, Kadivas Robinson, but this guy is our first ever active pro, and I think he's somebody just with his, pure balls and grit and the way that he works is going to be one of the better American milers. He was Eric Holt, pro middle distance runner for Empire Elite, 353 miler, and he's not happy about running a 353. So that's all you need to know about the guy. So definitely go back, give it a listen. It was a great show. We talked about 5 reasons why everybody's running so fast now, and they were incredible. Definitely something to go sink your teeth into. And now we have some PRs, everybody. And this week we had a whole bunch because a lot of our friends that we've had on the show send us the PRs, and we're really grateful for that. Meet of Champions was this week. Our first PR comes from Manchester, though, my alma mater. Dave coached there. This wasn't from Meet of Champs, but this was Nick Lafredo. You've heard the name before. He ran a 158.78 in the 800 at Easterns on Wednesday. It's a school record and a PR for him, so congrats to Nick. Fantastic time. I'm happy to see that record go down. Anytime a record goes down in, the alma mater, it's nice. Then have to give a shout out to our buddy at Ocean, Coach Lynch over there. He had Alexander Sadikov run a 48 flat from the unseeded heat. Would have set the Meet of Champs record, won every Meet of Champs ever. If it wasn't this one, he ended up taking third. 2 other guys broke 48, ran 47.35 and I think 47.5. It's pretty incredible. But great job to Alexander. South Brunswick, we have Demarius Potts, repeat champion in the long at 23 feet, 1.5 inches, and then adds the high jump championship at 6'6". He's a legitimate jumper. Congrats to Demarius. And Westfield, finally, we have Avery Keith running a 909 in the 3200, took 4th at Meet of Champs and set a school record. We have Liam Murillo and Johnny Scalia, both ran 156 in the 8, took 8th and 9th respectively. And then Johnny Gildea ran a 158, Andrew Singer 202, Alex Valencia 2 flat, and Eamon Mason 2 flat on their way to 5th place in the 4x8 Meet of Champs. So congrats to all the PRs. Anyone that competed at Meet of Champs, whether you ran well, did not run well, that experience is something you are now part of a very select class of individuals that was even invited to compete there. So congrats to everyone this weekend that medaled and even competed. So Dave, I monitored the meet because you kicked me off on your mile split, which is okay. It's your mile split. But, I was funny because I'm sitting there and I have 2 computers open. I'm monitoring Meet of Champs, and then Marist is running at the ECAC IC4As. So I'm like dueling, telling my kids to go watch a TV show because I'm monitoring track meets while making dinner. It was a great time, Hyatt.
Awesome. I was watching it. I put the feed on my big TV and just sat down for about 3 hours and loved every second of it.
Now, let's jump right into our guest now. We wasted enough time here. This is someone that Hyatt, when we first made the inception for this show, we're like, I don't know if he'll do it. We might have to force him to do it. We're gonna make him do it. And it's someone that, if you know him, he's not a man of super, he doesn't say a lot, but when he speaks, you better freaking listen because he drops knowledge. He is Jason Griffith. He's the head coach over of XC and track and field over at Manchester Township. Coach, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing? Thank you for inviting me tonight. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So yeah, you were a bucket list guy, and I'm happy that we filled it pretty quickly because, like you said, we didn't know if you'd want to come on. You're really not the most showy guy. So we are pumped because you are I think one of the better coaches in the state of New Jersey. And I don't think that's very, far-fetched. I think you ask anyone that's met you, that's talked to you, you're going to say no. But I really do think that's true. So we're just super pumped.
Very much.
So let's jump right into it because we ask all of our guests this exact thing. Where did your passion for running start? You were a good high school runner, ran collegiately, right? Where did the spark start when you were, younger and you're like, hey, this could be my thing?
Well, I think I wanted to be good at something. I was always tall, and I went from I don't know if this is politically correct, but like not playing on good soccer teams, like playing on like the mixed co-ed teams and having the girls like beat the crap out of me. And then, I was, being one of the tallest kids in the school in elementary school, going out for basketball, but kind of being a clown and not even really be able to make a layup. I think I did try doing a layup and the ball like stalled up on top of the rim, like on my first layup line. So that didn't work. And then, I presidential physical fitness test running a 600-yard run. I think I was like second or something like that in Cedar Grove Elementary in Toms River. And then I decided to go out for cross country and, kind of went from there. It wasn't instant success by any means,
So it's basically you were competitive in the need to find something.
Needed to find something to be good at, and, I kind of, found that niche of, running long sprints and middle distance. I thought I was going to be a 400 meter for a while. And, and just, blessed to have some, even starting in middle school, some really good coaches to lead me along the way. Coach Grasso and Sullivan and John Yaka were all my coaches in the middle school. And then I had Bill Reva in high school. And then, one of the guys that in college, I was lucky enough to have one of the guys that pretty much wrote the training manual for USA distance, Al Schmidt at Mississippi State. He was like really active in like the level 2 and 3 development then. So I was just blessed to have some really great coaches and have a good time and be a part of some good teams and, have some experience. It was fun.
So when did you move to Jackson? 8th grade, the summer?
I moved to Jackson in my freshman year, going into my freshman year. My mother had some horses, and we were spending a lot of money boarding them at certain places. And my dad was like, he worked out at Six Flags. Like, I guess we're going to get a place. And so we looked around and found a place that I guess they could swing. And it was in Jackson. And that's where I was there. I thought I was going to go to High School East, and I thought that was going to be the greatest thing in the world. With Coach Schrader over there. And I thought it was the worst thing in the world to go to Jackson at the time. But then, it was a blessing in disguise. Billy Reva was really like a second father to me. And we really, I caught like that first wave of Jackson really being a credible program. We were able to win a sectional title, Ocean County title, while I was there. And that was fun.
I could see Dave. It's funny. Dave is sitting there going, yeah, awesome. Happy you didn't go to East, because Dave's a South guy. So he's great. Don't go to East.
I wasn't running then. My first actual knowledge of Griff was when he was coaching at Jackson, and I was coaching over at High School South, and he had some tremendous teams then with Lamar Grant and
yeah, that was a continuation of what Billy really kind of started there. We were lucky to be on the front end of it, and I wanted to come back and coach at my high school. And that was it. But yeah, we joke around. East would have been really pretty nasty because of Joe Chiarello. I talked with him quite a bit. Rob Salt, like all these guys that they had a really good team also. And I think if I somehow would have stayed over there, that would have been a really good team. But obviously, like my best friends were from Jackson as you move to high school and all that. Yeah. And it was just, Jackson was something that I would never trade for the world.
My first memory of you, Coach, is when you coaching against me. You had Monroe Kearns, Austin Santillo, right? Were you still at Jackson at that time?
Yeah. No, that was the big class,
And me and Monroe stayed buddies throughout his time over at Rutgers and stuff, because Monroe was just such a nice dude. Like, he was just an overall really good, down-to-earth guy. And even as competitors, I don't know how much you liked how friendly we were, because I don't know if you remember, me and Monroe, we were pretty tight. even as we were competing. And I know Dave, his coach, would have frowned upon the friendliness, but
that was an O'Leary thing. He was really kind of, I think he finally stopped referring to me as Dick Griffith, maybe just recently. I don't know, but he's something else. I get to talk to him now, but I learned a lot, not because he told me, but by just watching what Mark O'Leary did. But yeah,
he's as old school as it gets. So you're running in high school. At what point did you realize that you could be really, really good and that you might have a future in college? Was it when you won your first short conference, or was there a time earlier than that?
Yeah, like I had it in my head because, kids are unrealistic. You think you're going right to the top. I thought I was going to run at Kansas or something like that. Because I got a letter from Kansas. So I was going to go there. Then you study Jim Ryan and all that, and then start looking up Peter Snell, and I could be this guy. I could be that guy, But,
So you look back at your journey, you look back at, when you started running and things like that. What are some of your fondest memories? Hyatt mentions there, winning short conferences, you ran in college. Kind of take me down memory lane a little bit. What are some of your best memories from like the beginning that you can pull up till, basically?
I think a lot of it is the team things when we were able to win sectionals my senior year, and be able to play a big part of that. We won sectionals, beat South, and it was Cumberland Regional at the time, 1989 South Jersey Group 4. That was huge. Lucking out, like winning my first short conference, coming from the back, and being like in a position to win that. Just it's mostly the team stuff, being there with your friends and just, Billy Reva dropping us off in New Egypt in his van. Like when we went to our first county championship and won, like this was like, now you never transport kids in your car, but Billy, we used to go everywhere in a van of no less. And it used to be like 6 of us in the back of a van, and we show up at like county championships and do pretty well, and won it one year. And like I believe most of the team traveled there in his van because he got car sick. He couldn't ride in a bus at all. I get car sick on a bus. I lay down, but he wouldn't ride a bus. So that's the way it was with him.
Yeah, I used to get a ride home from practice every day from my coach. It's just things that happened then that you just do now.
Yeah. We used to ride into his house and swim in his pool and all that kind of that fun stuff. Having like the barbecues and
pasta
and
parties
stuff
at
like
the
that.
coach's house.
Yeah, he took us up to Action Park once. That was pretty class Action Park when, my buddy who was a pole vaulter, cliff diving and flipping and all that.
Were you a part of the documentary? Were any of you in the clips there?
No, I think the closest thing was we had these 2 twin brothers and they got their shoes stolen out of the locker or something like that. I think that was the closest thing. But I actually will say this, Charlie Best. He wrecked himself pretty good on an Alpine sled, and we had to take him to the emergency room to get him like patched up, and we were trying to set him up with the nurse there and all that kind of stuff.
Action Park,
we were having fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know when it really stopped with the coaches being able to, because I still remember like in my generation there, like the late 2010s, like I graduated 07. It was still cool to like, as long as your parents were like, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
You were able to get rides. Like, I don't know when that really changed. You guys were around it. When did that kind of go away? When was that kind of like phase?
I don't know. I think I can say pretty much from when I started coaching, it kind of started, I still would give a kid a ride, if
they really need it. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because, that still happens, and especially in Manchester. But, I just don't think it's just good business to go around offering kids rides these days,
Yeah, no, it's not smart.
If you're starting, I think that would be like one of my top, things of advice is not to like really take chances with things like that, because it's not worth it if you want to have a long career in coaching,
And there's buses now. There's this bus, and then there's
they got we always had a later bus. Too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of ways to get home if you need it. And, become friends with your seniors, underclassmen. Make your seniors and juniors take you home. Because if you're cool with them, they will pile in and they'll let you go.
Yeah. For a while, we had parents, but then you get the groups. Like right now we have a group of seniors and juniors, and a lot of them are driving, so that gets to be pretty good. But then there's always that kid that like stays right to the end or doesn't have a ride, and you love them, but you're like, come on, can somebody give them a ride home? Let's go. I want to go home. My wife's, I haven't, I coach, out of 180 days, I think I coach 160 of them a year at least.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you're in the weight room more than most of the athletes too. If so so
I don't know about that. I need to get him in there more.
so you mentioned. Go ahead, Dave.
You're coaching at Jackson with your old coach, Lovenick.
Yep.
He leaves, and then do you become the head coach at that point?
Yeah, it took a little bit of time. Like I came in with the goal of, wanting to take over the program, and Billy was in his final 5 years, I think. So first came about was I volunteered for one season, got an assistant job another season, and you kind of paid your dues for a little while, and then I got an opportunity to be the head winter coach because Billy used to like skiing. So I would do that. And then you find out that's like a bottom of the barrel head coaching stuff. And you're like, oh my God, I thought I was going to actually get paid eventually, and then you don't, which is fine because you don't do it for the money. You just want an opportunity. And then I think I grounded out for a little while. So I think I started coaching there in 96, probably around 90, I think 99, I got the winter coaching job. And by 2001, I had the cross country in the spring. So that was the idea. He had finally retired and walked away from it. But
so you're going through Jackson. You have some great teams over at Jackson. Like I remember, like your teams were always one of the more feared teams, especially county conference meets. You guys were good. What made you want to come to Manchester? I know Manchester has a pretty good tradition. We got some great coaches between John Musoff, Rob Conover.
Oh, yeah.
Rob Haneke, for the little bit of time he was there, was really starting to bring the track and field program a little bit further back to what it was when, my sister's group, when they were there from 2001 to 2004 and 5, when they won their section. What made you want to come over and start coaching at Manchester?
Well, you said a lot of names there, and a lot of them had something to do with it. When I was first looking to get a job at Jackson and be the head coach, Conover at Manchester used to ask, oh, why don't you come over here and coach? I'm getting ready to retire. I like to, and I think he was saying it tongue in cheek or whatever, because I was like the young coach who was really motivated at the time. And I thought that was very flattering. And I did keep that in the back of my mind because I always really admired Bob and Muse, especially because we'd always have conversations, and Billy got along really well with them because, we were kind of the west side of Ocean County crew, kind of us versus if it can't be us, we hope it's Manchester, or Lakewood, because we don't want Toms River Southern winning anything that they possibly can. So that was it. We kind of felt we were the underdogs or the upstarts. And, it came to that. And then I had actually just basically at the time, it's tough to make, a living in teaching, and at the time, it was tough, and I was going to look at being an administrator, and I had a lot of that done, and I didn't really want to do it. I wanted to coach. I had a passion to coach. And then a lot of people had left Jackson, and one of them was Rob Galatola, and another one was Rob Panacue, because Panacue was a Jackson guy. I don't know if you know that for sure.
Yes, I knew it.
But he's a Jackson guy, and I was both close with them. We kind of came up together in the coaching ranks. They were, about 5-10 years ahead of me. And, but Galatola brought me over. I was at Howell at the time. I was at Howell for a year and a half, and we had some really successful teams and some great athletes there too. We had a really fun time. We ran like 321 and 322 over a period of like 2 years. Had a kid run 53. Ben Edwards ran 53. I mean, I could go through the names of those. Then Panacue was he was going to leave Manchester to become an administrator in Wall, and he's like, I just got settled in at Howell. He's like, well, why don't you? I think it was when the year you had won the short conference, Alex, and Dunbar had won you won the 800, and Dunbar had won the 100.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, why don't you come over here? And I'm like, why? Because I lived in Manchester. So and I'm like, oh, I don't know, I'll look at it. He goes, yeah, well, I'm leaving. So, you'll probably get the job if you come in, because I had the exact certification that was needed. It was a math certification, special ed special ed math, highly qualified. And that's pretty much how I ended up over here. Cause I looked at it as a place, I really kind of identified with is, cause I enjoy Manchester a lot. My heart's been here for a long time, and just an opportunity to be with the kind of kids that we have here.
Yeah. Coach Q is one of my favorite coaches of all time. He pulled me away to go play football my senior year. I know Dave's always mad at me when I played football. And honestly, one of the best decisions I ever made. because, I got to be, with Panic You another year. I had a great time. I didn't get hurt for once in the fall, got hurt twice doing XC. So, but,
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so I went there. I had a great time, and Coach Q is one of my favorite people. Now, I got to say, when I heard that you were coming over because you didn't get the chance to coach me, I was freaking pumped. I'm like, we have great coaches. We have one of the best coming in. So I was absolutely ecstatic because, one thing about Manchester, this, Hyatt knows this, amazing athletes, very few motivated athletes. Like the motivation it wasn't there when I was there. And I don't know if it's had an upstart, but you need to have a good coach to kind of tap in to the Manchester athlete to make them really want to work their tail off. Don't get me wrong. There are some that just go and they want to go.
Yeah.
But to get a coherent group, it's not always the easiest thing. And I love Manchester, but I know our kids. So
I'm not sure if that was the issue in track as much, because they always had that strong, positive head track coach with Con Overmuse, and then when Griff was there, and now Chef, like track team always seemed to have just studs who worked hard, were very well coached, and a lot of them did seem motivated. I mean, I can't speak for the other sports. I'm going to speak for track, but I didn't notice that as much. Certainly when I was competing against them, and then when I, became the head girls coach, we always had some really, really, really good kids.
We did. Yeah. We did. We certainly did.
Well, I think you could definitely say, both of you are kind of right in a way. I think kind of be known for that if you want it to be, but I kind of like looking at the positive aspect of it. And I've really never had that experience. My kids our young men have just always really bought into the program. At times it's been a little bit tough, but we've come a long way and come back full circle. And Manchester just always had really tough kids and kids that would put in the work and produce and we really took off actually during even the pandemic when everybody else was like crying that they couldn't work out. They couldn't do this. My kids were meeting over at LMSA on their own and working out, and they just wanted to be together, and they had such a positive culture that they would go out there and put the work in. And sprinters included sometimes, so I really just have been blessed there with, with the talent and the hard work that our athletes have put in, and Manchester is a great place because it's one of those places where you can say whatever you want to a kid, and your parents aren't going to be like trying to get your job the next day, and they'll probably say like, yeah, you deserved it or this and
very
that.
Very blue collar in that sense, down to earth.
It's refreshing, and yes. it's something that I think there's not too many places like that at this point. But it's one of the things we really have going for us.
That's nice.
People can make that, you can say that, but I think if you really want to find and you really, transmit that vibe that you want to compete and you want to be there for them, the kids buy in 100%.
So I want to take a quick step back because, I didn't know that you were over in Mississippi for a little bit. You went to school there, and then you actually hung out there for a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
What was the intention to stay out in Mississippi, and what was that?
Oh, no. It was a one-shot deal. Okay. It's like all of us, you have some girlfriend that, she had actually stayed, and she was an assistant coach at Mississippi State. Restricted earnings coach at the time, and she's like, well, we'll stay, or you're staying. I'm like, okay. And then she had actually called in the paper like, oh, there's a job down here in Durant, and maybe go apply for it. And I was like, all right, I'll go down. I had nothing else to do. So I was like one of like 3 applicants, and it was like to coach girls basketball, and you could coach some track on the side if you wanted. And I ended up taking a job and staying there for a year. And before the end of the year, she was out and went to South Florida. So then I'm like stuck in Mississippi, which was, it was a tremendous experience. It was definitely something much, much different than what we do here, and it's a different experience. I don't want to,
I got you.
Begrudge or besmirch.
I don't want to begrudge Mississippi.
Enough said. Yep.
Because Mississippi State was very good to me. So
understood. Understood. So let's jump back into coaching a little bit. You've had the experience of coaching, at both larger school and smaller schools. What has it been? What is it like in terms of building a culture of, success versus schools that have a little more options versus schools that don't?
Well, like I said, with like maybe cross country, I will say this, the Jackson team that we had built up before I left, that was a convergence of, one of the last years that they were all going to Jackson before they had split into Liberty and that. So we had really, we built it up over a period of time, because Jackson, if you look now, they're not a place like you have to, and even Scott Baker, they didn't always have these huge, massive teams.
Oh, no.
Even a place like you look at Toms River North now, they have tremendous athletes, but they don't have huge numbers now. Those things kind of come and go, whether you have a large school or not. And you got to put a lot of work over a lot of years to try to build that up. Like Glenda Calabro we used to have
oh yeah,
Getz and McCullough come over and we'd have their meet or their cross country meet on our campus, and then serve them pizza and give them T-shirts. I don't know if that's legal, but that's what we did 20 years ago, and try to get them to run cross country and then try to build up our teams. And then we just had the convergence of talent over there in Jackson. But I will say this, and we've had some success here, and it's a Group 2 school. It is much different. You can't run through kids. You gotta
get injured.
You can't. You got to keep everybody together. You got to watch. You got to really coach by feel. You can't coach by a template. Right. I think I had gotten to that section in Jackson when, and I think Chris Carl had asked me, so Griff, why that my junior year, we made this big, huge jump in how much work we had done and all this. And it's like, and I think my answer to him was because I think we could have beat CBA and we had enough numbers to do it. And we just kind of went for it. And, that's what they were able to eventually do. So it worked out, but you can't just do that unless you have the numbers,
Chris was a great anchor for that team too, especially.
Yeah, he was incredible.
It always kind of sucked. And that was part of my decision making too. It was like, do I really want to run against Chris in the 1 and 2 mile right now? I already know Brodeur is going to kick my ass. Chris is probably going to beat me. Like, where am I going to be here? And then, really sprouted up in the 800.
He worked his butt off along with Monroe. And like I said, Monroe was one of those things, like, because every freshman, every cross country coach, you lose kids to freshman football every year that ran cross country in the middle school.
Yep.
And I just looking at Monroe, like he's got he had this athletic build. He was a faster kid.
Yeah.
Just a great all around range. I was like, sure, like somebody's got him pegged for football. And then he'd be there with his grandma's like, oh no, he's running cross country. I was like, okay, we're in business.
Nice.
When I knew I had Monroe and then I had that group, it just started to kind of snowballing. But the difference is you got to be careful. And, I don't have a ton of kids, to really just go wave after wave of things, but we've had some good luck, and the kids are really make the most of their abilities in Manchester, and, we're happy with it.
I like how you mentioned the middle school, because I definitely feel in a smaller school, it's important to have that relationship with the coaches at the middle school.
Oh yeah. Pick in our middle school is incredible. You were great. I always make a point of, you have to constantly be in, like, I don't know why a coach wouldn't be in contact with the middle school as much as possible. I make sure I work the meets, you're there, you acknowledge the kids, you have your kids come out and talk to them, and you try to keep as many involved with the program as possible. Try to develop that relationship early to where they'll come out and, they'll take a chance with you, Yeah,
because I remember when I was coaching there, like my main goal was to have a relationship with you and to keep the kids interested and to make it fun and to build so that they had some sort of knowledge of the actual sport. And like, you would bring your whole team to the meets, and the kids loved it. And a lot of those kids, like Nick, like he's still running now, so I especially smaller school, it's really important to build that starting at the middle school level. A lot of coaches,
if my group hears that I'm going over to a middle school cross country meet over at over at our middle school, they're there, like, I'm leaving early and they're leaving. We're going to wrap things up quick, and we're going to get over there and run, and they're supporting the kids, and they get into it and they talk to them, and it's really a great recruiting tool. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do, but we're just watching a cross country meet, encouraging kids, and to have kids come out and run is just, it's fun to see, kids, because my son's there, and, the kids are just into what our kids in the middle school are doing.
And I'll say this, what you do there was nothing cooler than being a middle school kid with the high school coaches walking through your hallways or whatever, going to practice and and it happened. And that was just freaking awesome, right? Because you knew they were there and it showed that what I'm doing here doesn't only matter to my family and my coach here, it might matter to the next level. And it kind of feels like you're being scouted and you kind of feel like a badass. And, definitely shout out to Coach Rob Picton. Pick is the man, That's a name we got to have on here, Hyatt. We got to get Pick to jump on.
You got to get Pick on. Pick something special as far as, like, we owe a lot to him. Like, this team that we have now, they won a county middle school championship. And I think they placed pretty high. And I think with you, Dave, they placed high in this last year. They placed third. So, we look to those things, if you can be second to Southern or second to East and Southern or somebody like that in a middle school race, when you have so much, we're half the size, if not smaller. We're less than half the size of them.
Oh yeah.
So it's tremendous that we're able to go head to head with them, and it's because our kids they make up for it with their heart. So.
And Pick was certainly a big part of the, stability of the outdoor program too. While I was there, he's fantastic at the high school level too.
Yes,
a guy, and it's like
a great guy.
And it's interesting because he's such a, not to just go off on a tangent. He's a jack of all trades. The guy knows a ton about sports and just coaching. But back to you, Coach. You talked about COVID and how the Manchester grit kind of filled through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that a lot? Do you think, was that more athlete or was that just a relationship that you had with these athletes? And how important is it to have the type of relationship where you're kind of instilling your work ethic on them while cultivating the work ethic they have in them as well?
Well, like I said, you definitely don't want to do the kids a disservice by not doing your best. And I think kids pick up on how much effort you put into it, but you got to give the kids credit that I think they saw that they had potential to be one of the better teams, just like the Jackson team did. You see that you can actually do something tremendous, and then you invest yourself into it. And they were all friends, and they have a great culture, and they support each other. And it's something that means a lot to me.
So how is important is it? Because your background is definitely more middle distance, right? In terms of, you can coach it all. Obviously, at this point, you've been doing it forever. But how important is it to have, good assistant coaches there?
God, I have Lang now, and I had Vincent Guerra for so long.
And Taraboki was there for a little while, yeah.
Yeah. Well, with the path that I took, I did start as a distance coach. And then, you take on some of the sprints and you get a coach as a distance coach. You get to do some of the 400 guys workouts when I was with Billy. And then, then he leaves, and then you still have somebody doing the hurdles. And then I go to Howell and I pick up the hurdles. And, and then I came to Manchester, and it's like, well, you know what? I can just do I'll do whatever's on the track. I'll do the track. And then Chef was like a jack of all trades. He was doing middle distance and pole vault. He was kind of all over the place. It didn't work. And I'm like, can you just do jumps? And then, he was born as, I believe, when you say like, one of the coaches, I believe he's the best all around jumps coach in the state, if not, the short conference, if not the state, as far as what he produces every year. If you go on athletic.net and you look at his triple jumpers over the years, when it's just a tale of consistency with, you take the Manchester athlete and, he knows how to get the most out of them. And, his pole vaulters, high jumpers, long jumpers, he's always been that consistent thing. And he just takes care of that. And we work together as, we pretty much can, within 5 minutes, first 5 minutes of practice, decide where all the kids are going and who's going to work on what. And there's never any, the kids that jump and know they're going to end up running eventually because we share them and things like that and hurdle, but we just have a synergy to where we can kind of work things out really quickly. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, and I don't think we've talked about that as much with the head coaches, just the value and importance of having a relationship with your staff and everything like that, and having a good staff. So in terms of also with your coaching philosophy, And with COVID and everything and all the experience that you've been through, what has the change in the athlete been through all these trials and tribulations that these kids have gone through? And have you seen a bounce back of sorts over this past year where they've been able to really come back, be in person, really train, do more of a coherent, cohesive training program?
Yeah, I would say you can see like it's like you definitely had the performances, and it kind of opened the door for us as like an upstart team of sophomores to kind of do well when we came back into the mix, just coming back from COVID. So, which that opportunity might not have been there with things that picked up till now, so we kind of built some steam up with that. Yeah, but it's just increased over time. The kids are hungry. At first, it was you were denied that opportunity to compete, and I think that was really tough for the kids. And now everything's just going nuts. It's great.
So I feel like over the last maybe 5 years, I feel like coaching has changed in so many ways with the implementation of all these new technologies like Strava and all these things. Where do you fall in that? Like, do you embrace a lot of this new stuff, or you still feel like you're kind of set in your ways?
I've been using Strava because I'm a cyclist. So I was using Strava for, I'd say I was the first one, but I mean, I was using it in like 2010, 2012 when it first came out. And if you look at my Strava account, how long and we've always used it. And then, within the last 6-7 years, probably, a little bit before this group got here, the kids with the GPS watches, and it makes things a lot easier, especially when I'm coaching. Like Nick runs his own workout. I'm not sitting there with a watch and a clipboard. He tells me what his splits are as he's walking by, and I'm coaching Joey in the hurdles. We decide what he's doing, and it gets done. So I think that technology makes things to where you can do everything. You don't have to, you go to Ocean Breeze, you see the splits up on the board, and they're in the computer. You don't have to keep them in some notebook, which I have like 6 notebooks.
Oh, God. Oh yeah.
Like 60 notebooks in my garage. I don't even look at it anymore, but I'm not going to throw it away because it has like split or a newspaper thing. So those things are great, as far as that technology goes, is just being able to do it. I think GPS watches are really, what you need to do, because, the old saying is if it doesn't happen on Strava, it doesn't happen. Because how many times, I know with my kids, I pull up their Strava, or I actually have Garmin coach's clipboard for Nick, and I can look at his split, like every little possible, his stride frequency, every little metric for him. And it's really valuable.
That's awesome.
Do you find go ahead, Dave. Sorry about that.
Another thing that's the huge topic now, and I feel it's definitely starting to come more into play at the high school level, is the shoes. Like these new Nikes for, and like people say that the biggest asset that they have is that they can help you with recovery. You don't feel it as much when you're actually racing. I read something today, like 65% of all kids who place in the MOC from the 800 up all had on the super spikes or
Oh yeah. Well, like I was looked at both heats of the 2 mile, and me and Chef are sitting there watching them, and every single kid had the same Zooms on. They were either pink or green. And then the kid, so they're sold on it. Nick goes from those spikes he has to compete in. They all have the latest version of whatever. The hurdlers, they all have a carbon plate. Nick has a Zoom Flies that he likes to do tempo runs in, or post-meet runs in. And then he has his, they've gone through the different ultra cushion where like Hoka's and things like that, as far as the ultra cushion shoes. And then they wear the UFO recovery sandals, and we're big on ice baths. Like our kids live in our kids will
I used to always do that.
Time in the ice bath, submerged to their neck, so we do a lot of stuff working on recovery as like more of a holistic thing to kind of keep them going. I got kids, my brother-in-law is a physical therapist. We'll plug Atlantic Physical Therapies. We're connected to them. I have, Will Freeman going out to them now. And I think that's a big thing that people didn't realize. People used to maybe go to a chiropractor or something like that, which I have no problem with chiropractors, but just having a kid involved without being hurt, just getting them involved quickly into maybe a chiropractor, maybe physical therapy, but basically looking on correcting movement patterns and things like that is a huge asset. I take my son today because we're trying to get him so, he's like a baby deer. You know,
Yeah,
I feel like his leg's going to go flying off. He can't even come close to touching his toes. His arch caves in, but we're working on it now. So hopefully he's not like, well, for my wife, he's like, just so he's not in pain. I want him to run fast, but she wants him just like to be able to sit in the car without his back hurting. So,
yeah, I definitely feel there's definitely more of an emphasis on rest and recover now than, when we were in high school. It was kind of like just go, which I think is also helping because we're seeing all these fast times. So I think most coaches in general have a much broader concept. And I also feel like everything's out there on the internet. Like every coach can kind of see what like every other coach is doing.
Oh, so right. Exactly. We never had anything like that. You didn't. That was actually some of my downfalls sometime, is not knowing until you get to the line, like, oh, well, these two guys from Trenton or this guy from Newark East Side or this and that, you're going to race him and you haven't seen him. Like if you've seen them all online 100 times. You've seen every race they run. You've seen every possible little thing. So there's really nothing. There's no mystique to anybody when they're running. I will say this as a flip side to all this physical therapy and stuff. Kids come in much less durable than when we were young kids. We spent a little. We had like Nintendo and Atari. I mean, they don't leave their room when they come home.
Right.
They sit like lumps, and they don't play outside for the most part. Their bodies aren't built enough to withstand things. So they definitely need some tender loving care, and you need to have some patience with athletes too, because you can't come in. There's no way you can throw the kind of workouts at like, the Jim Ryan type workouts and even the workouts that even in the 70s and 80s were like, oh yeah, we're just going to do 10 400s with everybody on the team. You can't do that. You have to build your kids up or you're going to be left with nothing. So
yeah, I was talking to my brother the other day and we were saying like, kids don't go out with their friends and get into fights anymore. Like it used to be, go out with your friends, you played some football, you did a sport, whatever, all day. You were gone with your friends. And more than likely, the people you fought, you didn't get in random fights, you fought your best friends. And like kids do that. Kids don't bleed anymore. Kids don't come home with the bloody nose. Or what happened? Johnny punched me in the face. And then the next day call Johnny like you want to hang out. Like that doesn't go on anymore. It's, dude, you're going to be online. All right, let's play some COD. Like that is what the current thing is. And you definitely see
exactly.
That.
They don't start out as a hardy stock. You have to build that up. But, they do what they lack in, beginning, they make up for with like the technology and the knowledge that we have now that we're able to use, So
what was something that I never did, especially at high school, was, my trainers, they were always fairly heavy. Like I had heavy trainers. I worked out in heavy trainers. So when my spikes went on for meet day, it felt like I was on a cloud. Now it's like, oh, well, kids have this trainer for a speed workout or they're wearing their spikes because it's a real fast workout. And it's like, I didn't start wearing spikes or anything like that until college for workouts. Yeah. To me, it was like spikes were for meet day. And then everything else, like I wanted to train in heavier trainers because I wanted to build up that leg strength and I wanted that. Do you see a lot of that right now at the high school level with workouts where it's like, Griff, is this a speed workout? Or am I going on a distance run? And like, depend on the shoe they throw on there.
Yeah, no, I'll bust their chops a little bit, when they really want to like split hairs. And if I'm going like below, 6:30 pace, I'm putting on the Zoom flies but I want my sprinters, like anytime you're running fast on the track, I want them because the track is a cushion, right? And so if you put a big hoke, like especially now, because we've gone from minimalist shoes back up to maximal shoes, you don't want that extra friction and movement in their foot. And plus it just, it mutes so much of like the feeling for the track and the speed. So once I get to, once it's beyond like, and plus kids have to condition to wear spikes. So I really think that you really need to work into using spikes within, most of your quality workouts as much as possible. Cross country maybe a little less because you don't have as dependability of the surface, but I believe that, I like them wearing spikes.
So when it comes to the Strava with your distance kids, have you found that you have to temper them sometimes a little bit because they get a little neurotic about the pace that they're doing or like a heart rate or something like that? Or do you kind of set that standard with them like, hey, do what I ask you to do, try and hit it. don't go crazy if you can't, but I get that if you need to.
Well, I think most of it is whenever the thing with coaching is whenever you get a good athlete, it's more of trying to rein them in and hold them back versus, because they all want to do as much as they can or emulate somebody else.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And what it is you really have to kind of teach them the feel of running and kind of, I don't necessarily use the 3-week build up, 1 week off, but I definitely have taper weeks. And right now with our athletes, you try to teach them quality miles. They want to put in a certain number of miles. And then, I got some athletes, sometimes they'll, you start seeing some small, like that doesn't count towards your mileage. That's not what we're doing. And I'm also not necessarily like, I believe you have to have a quality amount of mileage, but I think it's more the stimulus of, you have to have within, a microcycle, you have to have different stimulus, like a long run, extended endurance pace, threshold pace, so you kind of want to balance it over a period of time. And I think it's kind of like, it's like a scale. You're trying to take a little bit off of here and put it there, and you're kind of constantly trying to do that. So
I don't want to get you in trouble here, but we used to use Sarco all the time. Is Sarco still persona non grata? Or are you guys allowed to go back there and do double trail and things like that?
Nobody's ever going to bother a runner out there. You really want it. You don't want to do some of the things that kids have done out there in the past. I luckily I am. For some reason my own kids don't feel this way, but my kids are scared of me, and I'd threaten them with an inch of their life. I don't want you on my, I don't care. If it's not Nick, you won't be on this team if you go in that water, or you go on or something he wouldn't do that anyway. He's not that tight, but, that's just the way it is. I said that the other day. We were up at the Armory, and Will Freeman was oh yeah, I see on, because now they have every Yelp they see Crumble Cookie 3 miles away in New York. So I go, you won't ever come on a bus again if you try to go to Crumble Cookie. Not going to happen. So you have to kind of scare them. But Sarco's an interesting thing.
It's such a training advantage for us. It really is.
It can be. We don't use it that much right now. But I've been pushing Nick out there more and more, and it's good. I like the big thing with Sarco. I think if you get that sand, you got to finish up on a nice hard surface at the end and run fast at the end. Yeah. So I think that's certainly the main thing. And then you gotta, too much of anything is not good, So I'm a big mixed surface, don't want to run too much in sand, don't want to run too much on grass, don't want to run too much on pavement, don't want to run too much in one place. Yeah. We try to mix it up and kind of go from there with the distance runners.
Someone keeps the legs healthy. Absolutely. Yeah. Mixing it up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know how much we use Lakehurst. I run Lakehurst a lot.
We barely did Lakehurst. They didn't want us near the tracks. They really didn't want us going near the tracks. That was a big thing that was don't go to the tracks. We did it every once in a while, but for the most part, we were in Sarco. We would do a lot of Baghdad's. We would do a lot of double trails, a lake, and things like that.
Yeah, well, we don't run on the tracks at all. We run over the tracks. That one little place that was always a little place in the cross country course when you had the cross country course. But then they run.
I remember that course.
We run straight out the side. I found another little trail and it runs out to the side, and that's where we usually use to get on and off. And that's another thing I threaten him. I go, if I catch you on the tracks, because I had a kid tear up his ankle bad. Yeah, on those things once.
Our cross country trail was a cheat code. Our cross country trail at Manchester was not an easy trail. We had such a mix.
Oh, I know.
I'm pissed that they took away the home course and all that because
we have it now. We do. We have it. We run all our home meets. We run them at Manchester now. I made up a course again. It's not as I'd love to have it to where I went, you get a permission from Hovnanian and to go up that one hill the one that goes into Sarco, then make the left up there. Cause you could really have a hill that takes the same kind of energy as what it would be to go up the bowl.
Yeah.
So, but the powers that be aren't letting me go off campus and do that. So I got a nice one, but we, the grounds guys have helped us out. We've made put some bumps and stuff like that. And we got some sand and we run through a cactus garden and nobody likes it when they go there. Our kids, some of our kids hate it, but it's an advantage for us.
It's cross country.
Absolutely. That's what XC is meant to be. So with all this tech and this advancement, have you found that this has made your job harder as a coach? Has it made it easier, or is there some give and take there where some things are now easier, some things you find more challenging?
I think it's made it easier for the most part because, like I said, you got the internet. You still have resources to look at things constantly. I have things coming into my email all the time. You're always trying to learn, and you're trying to add things to what you do. And I think early on, like I remember, like right about before you guys were in high school, about the time. Well, I think you guys are around Hyatt's age. Like my guys then, I used to have to watch them going on like the New Jersey Forum and like talking crap to each other. But
yeah, Let's Run. Let's Run was our
it was Let's Run. It was the forum on
Die
Stat too. Yeah, Die Stat was awful.
whatever it was, they were on there and they were just like you had to monitor what they were saying to each other. But now these kids, they really are all the teams really get along and they talk to each other and they basically support each other. There's very few times where you hear about like some kid having a problem with another kid. They basically want to see each other run fast. And I think that's part of the reason why they're all running fast is because, they bounce things off each other and basically support each other. The Strava, the Garmin makes things easier. The fact that they want to buy, like they used to want to buy basketball shoes and things, like they want to buy all these bikes and shoes, and if you can get them to buy them, they buy them. I'd like them to buy their trainers first because a lot of times you'll have kids show up and they got these fancy spikes and they're running like in the worst trainers possible. But yeah, we got Rob DeFilippo, so all our kids go up to Runners High and
nice
and are constantly looking. So I think the technology is a big thing, and just the knowledge, the cross training. Kids know most of what you know. They really do. You just kind of guide it along.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So we just had mocks, Meet of Champions this past weekend. We've asked a lot of our New Jersey coaches because it seems like NJSIAA just has it out for any sort of big championship meet in all the sports. We've already seen the basketball tournament of champions has gone and things like that. What would you say if you had a chance to talk to the powers that be about if they want to change mocks, take away Meet of Champs? What would you say to them if they wanted to do anything like that with it?
Oh God, you just hope you just don't look at what it is. Look how phenomenal that you have this huge meet with all this support. And we're really one of the better, deeper states in the country.
Absolutely.
We may not have like the super blistering time sometimes in the sprints that like Texas, California, Florida do. But when you look at like our depth and distance and things like that, and cross country and just what we had, you can't take that away. I don't think it's going. I think there was enough pushback this last year to where I think we're gonna keep it going. But there's always somebody. As people get older, they want to do less work.
I'm just hoping that at some point someone decides to build a state-of-the-art indoor track in New Jersey so that you guys don't have to travel to Ocean Breeze.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, I mean, the bubble was great, serves its purpose. It's wonderful for having those meets on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but just seeing the whole atmosphere today, the bank track, it's made for track and field. You can get all your jumps in. No one's getting in anyone's way. You don't have to worry about someone crossing the track when there's someone running. It just seemed like a perfect fit. And I just wish that something like that we could actually have in the state, because we are by far one of the top 4 or 5 states for track in the whole country every year. Jersey's out there.
Yeah. And what I tell the kids too, it's like, we're also one of probably 4 or 5 states that even run indoor, to be honest with you, consistently with the schedule we do. We not too, like you say, well, it's nationals. I go, well, it's not really, it's because people will come in,
then.
But we're the ones, we're one of a handful of states that really run indoor track to that extent. And it's good. But then you got to remember, it's also indoor track. It's not the end of the line.
Right. Most of those kids in indoor track, they've been training and have run only outdoor races until those national meets. Like kids from Texas and all that stuff.
And it's funny because I've seen on Twitter, with runners, like some of them complaining like, hey, we only do outdoor all the time. And then all of a sudden this comes to this meet that we now have to go run indoors. We've never run on a 200-meter track before this race and this atmosphere. So it's kind of interesting to see if potentially it catches on, because I've seen people saying like, hey, we need to build some indoor facilities in Florida so we could be better prepared. And I think about it, I'm like, hell no, I'd run outdoor year round if I could.
Training outside.
I always thought that was the weirdest thing when I used to go to like SECs and we used to go to Florida or LSU, and you'd go warm up on the outdoor track and it'd be 80 degrees outside and you go run your races inside.
Right. Arkansas, you're like, why are we running inside?
Right. Yeah. Well, Arkansas is cold. Arkansas is about the same as really. Arkansas is not much warmer than it is here. My parents live down there now. Yeah, they actually have the same jet stream kind of runs through there. They're a little bit about 5 or 10 degrees, but it runs pretty cold there too. Even Mississippi was pretty cold in the winters, but Florida and Louisiana, LSU, it was warm all the time.
So there's a little bit of the rumor mill that they might want to take Meet a Champs and bring it back to the bubble. And take it out of Ocean Breeze. Now, with what you saw and experienced at Ocean Breeze, I was fortunate enough to be able to coach over at Ocean Breeze when it opened up. I was still coaching at Marist College, and I'm with Dave on that, and I'm pretty sure you experienced it. It's just an all-out track facility. There is nothing about it that doesn't scream track. Similar to the New York Armory, it's in a really good spot in Staten Island where there's like not. It's just dedicated to that. And it's such a great facility that allows the athletes to compete in everything that they do. No one in the middle of the field all the time. There's enough stands to really have everyone there. Again, what would you say if they were like, hey, let's bring this back to the bubble now?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to have it at Ocean Breeze. I think it's definitely an advancement forward, but I definitely appreciate the bubble for what we have. I mean, we got a facility where you can run, and we're like the closest. We get there. We got to go all these meets, and it's a close drive, and the bubble's definitely a decent facility, but
absolutely,
it's not.
It beats driving up to Jersey City Armory. It beats constantly going to Princeton or having to run a
what we used to have to do.
I ran a Red Bank.
Red Bank
sucked. I hate Red
Bank. Was the worst. Yeah.
Well, thank you to Red Bank for having meets there, because it was nice to have a different facility, but your gym floor sucked.
I only ran there one time because we got in a fist fight with high school Lisa.
That story's pretty legendary. Yep.
It's amazing.
I ran one race my freshman year and then never went again.
Right.
So you're a fan of the sport. I just want to ask you just one last thing before we let you go. High school runners are very into track and field, right? They follow the college kids and everything like that. How do we make this sport be more appealing to just outside of the little running sphere? What would you think that you could see to possibly get people to want to come to a track meet and maybe enjoy what we three enjoy when we go watch it?
Yeah, I don't know. You're talking to I'm into coaching my kids, and I know the names, and I know like Sydney, and I know what's going on with what's the girl from Denmark, Bowl, and all that right now, as far as she's running fast, and I'm into when different athletes run, but I don't, these kids, they start rattling off names and time. I don't know what the heck they're talking about half the time. So, and I like going to a meet, but like I said, I'm like, I come home and then I also want to do I wish I had an answer for that. I'm not as up on it as some people are. You got the wrong guy for that one, but I enjoy it. It's fun to watch the meets when you get a chance. And, but the amount that they know about things is incredible as far as guys in college,
I used to when I was in high school. I definitely, I should pay attention to it more. There's not enough. There's too many people breaking 4 minutes for me to pay attention all the time.
with kids going to colleges, I do a lot of homework as far as looking to see what conference and if you can develop here and do well, and what conference are well. I was really surprised if you guys looked at how strong the ACC is.
Yeah.
That is the best conference right now, indoor track and field.
The depth.
When I looked at it, you compare the Big Ten, the SEC, and the ACC. The ACC is the best out of all of them if you look at their times overall from top to bottom. So
yeah, they're really good overall there, and there's been a lot of good times run. And Griff, this was lots of fun, brother. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
it really was. Thank you. I hope I didn't give you a dud. I don't know. That's the
No,
biggest thing
great.
I was worried about.
No, it's
No,
great.
no.
Hyatt, do you have
Yeah.
anything to say before we jump off out of here?
No, I mean, I just want to thank Griff. You know, he was always
thank you, guys.
very, very, very good to me when I was coaching over at Manchester. You know,
Yeah, well, I appreciate all your efforts, man. We
If I ever had a
really had a
question-
good time. You put together that championship team. You guys won Ocean County Relays that year. I think you won a division title also.
yeah, it was fun.
The girls are definitely better for having you there for that short period of time. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you for coming on again, Coach. It was a blast. Your knowledge, and I feel a little shafted. You came after me. I would have loved to have been coached by you, but Manchester as a high school, as a program, is very.
I would have been angry with you, Quest, if you would have started talking this football stuff with me. I don't know.
Oh, you would have probably kicked me off the team, probably. But
yeah, no, I won't. I keep you. You gotta with things like that. You gotta let kids find their own way. You know.
Yeah, and and it was
as hard as it is.
You do. You really have to. You got to let them find their own way. And we've actually been the recipient. I'm the recipient so many times that kids come, they start with something else and they end up with us for 3 seasons. So we've been blessed with that so many times also.
I think Chef is still mad at me for not running XC senior year. But again, just want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate you jumping on the show. This was lots of fun. Really looking forward to seeing, the program and as you continue to build it. And you have 2 major supporters here that we will always, have your back and love everything that you do there.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we really appreciate your enthusiasm. And like I said, it's been really fun where we're at right now. And hopefully we get to keep it going for a while, Definitely.
So we'll be talking. I'm pretty sure Nick will do and some other guys do some special things at Nationals, and we're excited to hear about it.
Oh, for sure. We're just getting started. We may not have had the meet we wanted to meet of champions, but these kids aren't making excuses. They're coming right back at it. We're going up to Nationals, and then, then we'll start seeing you guys in May again.
I love it. So again, everyone, he is Jason Griffith. He's the head cross country and track and field coach over at Manchester Township High School. Another one of the great Jersey short conference coaching minds that we have had on this program. We're going to keep on racking them up because Jersey is the best running state, and we'll fight anyone about that. So,
all right.
If you like what you heard, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Find us on the socials, and we'll be back next week. So long, everyone.